So good evening, everyone. We are tuning in now to the third of 4 budget meetings for the 2022 CVRD budget. This one is specific to the areas, electoral areas G and H, as well as the town of Ladysmith. And we welcome everybody who is in attendance. I am the host and facilitator for this evening. My name is Chris Schumacher. I am the Manager of Communications and Engagement for the Cowichan Valley Regional District. I want to start by acknowledging that we are all joining from various areas of the traditional unceded territory of the Coast Salish people. And we're all very happy to be tuning in for this meeting this evening on a sunny Thursday evening. Thank you for those in attendance. I want to start by introducing the staff that are here this evening with our Chief Administrative Officer, Brian Carruthers, is in attendance. Our General Manager of Corporate Services, Barb Mohan. Well, I better actually be able to see everybody before I keep saying who's here. We have our Chief Financial Officer, Natalie Wayner. We have our Manager of Finance, Tracy Bowen. And we have our esteemed elected officials, the Chair of our Board, Lori Yanni DiNardo. The Area Director for Area G, Lynn Smith. And the Director of Area H, Ben Marvin. Thank you all for your attendance. Before we get started this evening, I just wanted to give a little background in terms of why we're here and the process for the evening. So the purpose of these events is to help the public better understand the CVRD's budget, provide an opportunity to ask questions about the budget in terms of methodology, the impact of services, and other general questions about the budget itself. It can be challenging for us to address questions about specific budget items in this evening. We'll try our best, but essentially everything that's in the budget has received preliminary approval by the board at this point. And questions about specific service delivery is best left to the board, who will be meeting again on February 24th and 25th for their final budget deliberations. The other purpose for this meeting is to better enable the public to provide meaningful input on the budget to the board on the proposed budget. We're interested in hearing comments and input on the budget. And if you have comments or input, we would direct you to email them to finance@cvrd.bc.ca is the best way to provide direct comments and feedback on the budget. But again, we are here to answer questions that you may have to help inform those comments and your opinion about the budget as best that we can this evening. And if we can get those questions in prior to noon on February 18th, that will enable us to have enough time to include those comments in our budget package that will be included in the board submission to go to those special meetings on the 24th and 25th. So with that housekeeping out of the way, I would also just like to point out that the WebEx event feature has a couple of ways that you can provide comments and questions. You'll notice on your right-hand tab, there's a Q&A feature. You can, when you click on it, you'll see a little field come up where you can enter your questions. At any time during the presentation, please enter those. And if they come up to you, the sooner the better, enter those in, and then we can start addressing them as soon as the presentation is over. There's also a comment function. So if you do, again, have comments and input that you want us to put into to us, we will transcribe that and put it into the package that goes to the board as well. With that said, I will now turn it over to my colleague Tracy, who will make the presenter of the presentation, and she can lead it off.
Hey, good evening, everybody. I'm just going to get my presentation set up here. Okay, can everybody see my screen? Okay, so this is just the 2022 budget overview. The Cowichan Valley Regional District has 4 municipalities and 9 electoral areas. For 2022, we have 178 services. There are a number of completing challenges and expectations that the board must balance when setting the 2022 budget, including how to meet the needs of the public under increasing financial constraints, increased downloading from other levels of government, resulting in increased pressure to provide additional services, aging infrastructure and increasing construction costs that exceed consumer price inflation, legislative changes and higher requirements for standards of care that put increasing cost pressures on existing services, include increasing non-controllable expenditures such as hydro and insurance. The CVRD provides a variety of services to different partners, and therefore the impact of our budgeting process on each electoral area or municipality is different. For example, the cost for the average home in electoral area G, which participates in 26 functions, is $781.77. But the average home in Ladysmith, which participates in 18 functions, is $399.47. And Area G also has 3 specific area services encompassing a variety of services such as recreation and fire protection. To complicate matters, some services are provided directly by the CVRD, others in partnership with other organizations, and some take the form of grants to organizations that provide services in the area. The CVRD does not provide education, sidewalks, curbs and gutters, roads, policing, healthcare, or highways. These are all provincial services or municipality in the case of roads and policing in North Cowichan. For most of our services, the taxation is allocated based on assessed value. Each member municipality and electoral area share in the calculated base on assessment values that are provided by BC Assessment. And within this distribution between property classes is determined using a fixed ratio that is mandated under provincial legislation. Requisition represented almost 40.5% of the total revenue for 2021. The funding of each service is determined in the establishment bylaw, and with so many services, there are a wide variety of funding mixes used. We can, however, broadly characterize the main types of the services funding as regional, electoral area, sub-regional, and specified area. Regional services are funded based on assessment for all 13 jurisdictions within the regional district and are typically services that benefit the entire region, such as solid waste or general government. Electoral area services are specified to the rural areas only and are therefore shared by all participating electoral areas on an assessment basis with no municipality funding participation. An example of this is community planning, where the CVRD performs the function for the electoral areas, but not the municipalities. The X on the chart indicates the entire area participates, while the O is a portion of the area. Sub-regional services. Many of our services are sub-regional in nature in that they provide a service for certain areas within the CVRD, and funding is shared by those participating partners, normally on assessment basis. For example, this is say for futures. Specified areas are set up to fund services that are provided to a number of properties that do not represent the entire electoral area, and are different in that these functions are established in response to a petition by a property owner to provide service. A service area is established to encompass the properties that receive the service, such as Saltaire Fire. While taxation is a major component of the CVRD's revenue base, the CVRD does have a few other revenue streams. Non-taxation revenue streams that are considered as part of the budget process include user fees and charges, permit and licensing fees, reserve funds, which consist of operating reserves, capital reserves. We have grants and also proceeds from borrowing. As mentioned, services funded by other revenue sources include the Community Health Network, municipal finance staff, curbside collection and recycling services, sewer, water, and some street lighting services. The current budget approach is incremental, meaning that current activities and staffing levels are considered as core and used as a baseline for the upcoming budget. This approach uses core expenditures as the basis of the preparation of the draft budget, with requests to changes to existing service levels being treated as supplemental requests to the commissions and committees for their consideration. Core expenditures are defined as those that require to maintain the current levels of staffing, service, and capital, including reallocation of services within operational budgets that do not require increase in requisition. Supplemental requests for the purpose of budgeting are defined as items that are in addition to the current staffing and/or service levels, and any capital that requires an increase to requisition or user fee. This includes purchases of construction for new capital, the addition of part and full-time staff, positions, and changes to programs and services requiring increases to user fees or requisition. Staff was directed a target of 3% requisition increase for 2022. In some services, such as solid waste and Vancouver Island Regional Library, this was not possible due to existing service contracts. The board has had a few budget meetings in 2022 and has considered some supplemental requests. After each meeting, the CVRD budget website is updated to reflect the decisions made at each meeting. With the decisions made to date, the budget includes a requisition increase of 5.44%. The board will then hold a meeting on February 24th and 25th to review all the decisions that have been made and propose any further changes to the budget before the financial plan bylaw is brought forward in March. The increase to requisition is discussed as a total number. However, as mentioned previously, the effect of individual properties varies based on the number of factors, including property assessment and property location. Only the participants in a service area contribute to the cost of providing those services. This slide shows the impact of each municipality electoral area of the proposed 2022 budget. In electoral areas G and H and the town of Ladysmith, the largest changes are in solid waste, followed by an increase in the regional park land acquisition function. The electoral areas will also see increases in the Vancouver Island Regional Library. The increases are offset somewhat by decrease in electoral area service functions. In area G, the average home will see an increase of $51.14. This chart, which is available on the CVRD website, shows how the tax requisition is broken down by function. In area H, the average home will see an increase of $2.55. In the town of Ladysmith, the average home will see an increase of $43.97. And as I said before, all of this information is available on the CVRD website for the draft budget. A number of detailed schedules are available on the CVRD website, providing total budget information as well as detailed financial information for each of the services. The majority of the schedules look at changes in property taxes. Parcel tax information is provided on a separate schedule. Schedule A presents the changes in tax requisition. It only shows services that have changed and details the amount of the change for that service. Down at the bottom is the total difference between the general tax requisition of 2021 and that of 2022. This does not include the change for local area services, which affect only specified defined areas. Schedule B shows a change in tax requisition by jurisdiction. The change due to other jurisdiction column reflects the increase in the library requisition. Also down at the bottom is is the increase in local service area taxes such as fire. Schedule C shows a change in requisition going back to 2015. Schedule D has a page for each jurisdiction. It lists only the services that the area participating in and shows the changes for that service. Down at the bottom, it includes the local service area taxes applicable for that jurisdiction and change in those as well. Schedule E has a page for each jurisdiction and shows the impact for the average home in that area. Schedule F is a summary of the short and long-term debt. The schedule on the website is not yet updated for 2021 debt as we haven't finished borrowing for the year. The schedule will be updated once the year end has been completed. Similar to Schedule F, Schedule G has not been updated for 2021. Finance does not usually transfer funds to capital reserves until the end of the year. This schedule will be updated when year-end funding transactions have been completed. Schedule G has a portion for capital reserves and a portion for operating reserves. Again, the schedule will be updated closer to the end of the year when operating results are known. Schedule H shows assessment by jurisdiction for 3 years. The 2022 completed roll is used for the 2022 budget calculations. Schedule I shows how the requisition for an area is split between the property classes. Schedule J shows the cost of a $100,000 home and shows a portion of the total assessment represented by each area. Parcel taxes for sewer and water systems are shown on Schedule K. And user fees for sewer and water systems on Schedule L. It's important to note that an increase in the parcel tax or user fee for service does not necessarily mean an increase to the property owner. In many cases, new properties have been added to the service areas, thus increasing the total number collected without having to impact an individual property. Those are the detailed schedules available on our website. We have more specified details on individual services. For each service, there is a summary sheet that gives a description of the service, lists the amount being requisitioned for 2022, the maximum amount that can be requisitioned if applicable, and shows the split between the participating areas. This is followed by the proposed 5-year plan for the function. And lastly is the budget detail from our accounting software showing the actual expenses for 2019 and 2020, the budget for 2021, and the proposed budget for 2022. And all of this is available on our website.
Thank you very much, Tracy, for that informative presentation. We encourage any questions from our attendees to come in through the Q&A function, and we'll give a minute here for those to come in before we concede that we have none. In the meantime, I may actually open the floor for either of the area directors or representatives from the town of Ladysmith to ask a question of staff if they so choose. Director Smith or Director Martman, do you have any questions about the budget? Please go ahead, Director Smith.
Thank you. Just wanting to double check the average home tax impact. A Schedule E does not include everything up to the last budget meeting that we did have. Is that correct?
It includes everything that has been up to date. So everything that has been approved up to date is on that schedule. So everything that you guys have, the commissions have done up to that 5.44% is reflected in those schedules.
I just noticed under our community parks, there's an increase, yet we didn't increase that budget. And so I was just wondering about that one when I look at that one on that Schedule E. So maybe if I could just ask a bit of clarification on that one. It's just something that caught my eye.
I'd have to look into that to figure that one out.
Sure, no problem. We can.
In the meantime, Director Marmon, if you have a question, please go ahead.
Thank you, and appreciate the time and effort that it's done to produce this. And I have just a very general question, because though there is an increase of 5.44% across the board, Area H comes out very well with a $2.55 average increase for an average home. And I think it'd be interesting to hear your explanation about how does Area H come off so well?
I think I'm going to direct that maybe to our CFO to start.
Yes, Director Martman, it becomes because of the assessments. And I can share a screen and it shows how some of the areas are impacted with residential assessments. This year there was an average assessment increase overall of 35%. And some areas had significant increases to residential, even more so than the industrial or managed forest lands. And that has done a bit of a shift in who pays taxes and who doesn't. But Chris, if I could share my screen.
Just making you presenter right now. You should have it.
Thank you. So for Area H, when you look at the 35% increase that's average, you'll see that the residential taxes are 23.9% increase. So that shows that for Area H, they're below the level, which means they will pay less of the taxes that are required for that area. Now, when you go and look at Area G, which will have a greater impact, you'll see, sorry, there we go. You'll see that it's 32.97% change, and that change is closer to the 35%. So that means the residents are paying closer to the same amount of money. You'll also see for Area G that there was a decrease of 12.61% to managed forest, or 1.7 million of their assessed values. That means money that normally had been paid for by the managed forests are now having to be paid for by the residential taxpayers, which means taxes are increasing for the residential homeowners and decreasing for the managed forest land. So while you can see overall there's a decrease, an increase of 26.49 for Area G, if that's below the 35, residential taxpayers will end up paying more. When you look at the town of Ladysmith, you'll see that the residential increase is 37.9% change, and managed forest has gone down 11%, but it's only a $270 or 70,000 change. So it's not as significant. Farmlands decreased a little bit as well. But because the residential taxes have gone up and it's over the 35%, that means that residential taxpayers will be paying a little bit more in city of Ladysmith. So if you actually looked at it way back when we did the original budget, the increase to the core showed these percentages, and that was based on a 2.4% increase. The increase to the average home is different, where you see a 2.98% increase to the average home was for Area H, and that's basically because that area had a decrease and it did not have an increase in assessed values as much as, say, the town of Ladysmith with 37.9%.
And Director Martman, does that fully answer the question that you had? Are you satisfied? Or
I am. I guess from a very I have a very simple view of that. There's a certain size of a pie. That's all the requisition that's required. And the Area H size slice of the pie got a little bit smaller this year in terms of what we had to account for. So I don't know if it'll happen next year, but certainly I think Area H residents will be pleased with that. Thank you.
Thank you for that question. Director
So I'm
Smith, seeing no
just,
other questions
so
come in.
I'm just going to jump back in and just ask,
Okay.
can you, do you mind pulling up the effective requisition change for jurisdiction after the February 7th, 2022? I know there is a Saltaire resident that is the attendee, and I think it would be important for the gentleman to see that we are currently for Area G at 2.09% increase over last year. We've jumped through so many numbers that I think that it's amazing how you keep track of all of this. I think the end result for the communities is always where we're at right now. And then he can see if where we're at, which for Area G is an increase of 2.09% when we started with a 4-point-something% at the beginning of the budget deliberations. So we've done well, and I thank all the staff for all the help and all the work towards this. It's really nice to see a lower number. And the amount of work and effort that goes into all of this presentation, but just all the budgets. It's not just the finance staff, it's also all the different departments that bring this all together for us through the finance department. And I appreciate all the staff at the CVRD, because it brings us to this point where we can present it to the communities, and then the communities can take the time to look back over some of these documents at their own pace. So thank you for your time and presentation today. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Smith. And this is the schedule you're referring to, which shows the 2.09% right there for electoral area G and an overall requisition increase of 5.44% that Tracy mentioned.
Thank you for that question, Director Smith. Thank you to our finance staff for the adequate answers. I see no more questions coming in through our Q&A. And at this point, would like to just thank everybody, all our attendees, our elected officials, our staff for coming in this evening and participating in this budget engagement process. Very much looking forward to the February 24th and 25th meetings, where the board will do their final deliberations on the 2022 budget, and want to make sure everybody can tune in if they're interested in observing that. In the meantime, once again, want to say any comments or questions further to this meeting that you may have, please direct those to finance@cvrd.bc.ca. And want to just wish everybody a wonderful evening. And again, thank you for your participation in this process.